Hi everyone, it's Lou Collins. Today I've got another Papercraft Essentials template for you. This is free for you to download on Craft World. Now this came in the issue 25, and this prints out exactly the right size for you to create a wonderful little gift bag. And because it's got the tie template included, you can kind of make this into a shirt card, and it's going to be absolutely perfect for Father's Day for you. But what I love about this size is it's also the perfect size for you to run embossing folders through with it before you construct it. So I'll show you how to do that in a little while. But if you want to do the embossing, and to be honest, if you're doing a gift bag anyway, you should use a really good quality cardstock, a good thickness. This cardstock from CraftStash, so it's the Creative Craft Products brand. This is, I believe it's 280 GSM. It's, like I say, it's under the Creative Craft Products brand. It's white stamping card, so it's smooth and plain white, but because of the thickness, it's going to hold things like your score lines and your creases and such. Now, with all my templates, if you've been watching these template videos for a while, you'll know that I tend to use repositionable spray glue just to hold my template in place on top of my cardstock while I do my cutting and scoring. But again, this does have measurements on it. So if you want to go ahead and use the measurements and create your own, or even scale those up or down, you can do that way as well. So tools, again, bringing in my trimmer. I absolutely love this trimmer. So I'm going to cut, I will be bringing scissors in as well for this one, but I'm going to do the main part of the outside of the template. Now the white one is the scoring tool, so we don't need that. That goes up the top. We'll use that in a moment, but for now we want to cut around the edge first. So I'm putting the base of all the tabs in the line there, in the gap. I'm going to keep this template part because I want to use the tie later. And then I'm just going to work around, and this just means that the larger parts of your template are cut in nice straight lines for you, making life much easier when you come to put it together. So just go around all four of the longest edges. Let's make sure they are in there, because sometimes I don't stick my template on perfectly straight onto my cardstock. Not purposely, but sometimes it just means that the lines aren't going to quite line up. Bear in mind that this tab has a slight angle to it as well. So we'll be cutting down to here, and then the line will go off. So don't let that throw you off. So I've got my four edges there. Then I'm just going to come in with a pair of scissors, and I'm going to snip into each of these angles as well. So the tabs at the bottom, they just have an angle to make it easier for you to glue these together. Now this is kind of a square based gift bag. The top you could have a play with. You could bring in additional features like a fold over panel at the top if you wanted. That would be separate, but you could do that. You could put handles on this if you wanted. This is just giving you the basic bag template, which I think is really handy to have in your crafting arsenal anyway. So print this off. I mean, it might be an idea to print this off and sort of laminate it, not use it in the way that I do where I cut into them. Laminate all these templates, or keep them together in a folder at least, so you've got them all to hand. So there, I've cut into each of the grooves there, and then I've cut this section out at the bottom. Then I'm going to leave my cutting blade at the bottom of my trimmer, and I'm going to go along. Oh, there's one more I've missed. Look, just at the top corner here, another tab at an angle. But now I'm going to go along all the dotted lines and score these. So I tend to work with all one direction first, and then all another direction next. So I'm going with all of the vertical lines first. So work my way along. I've got some diagonals in here, and I will show you how I tackle diagonal lines. There's a couple of ways depending on the tools you're using. And the last one there. Now we're not going to score this line. Okay, this line is purely just to show you how high up this angle comes to. If you're doing it by hand, you don't need to score there at the moment. You can do, if you want to fold your bag flat at any time, score that line, but I'm not wanting to, so it's also giving you the measurement for this. Okay, so I've got all of my vertical lines scored. Let's just do this horizontal line, and really this is one continuous line here. So across the bottom of the tabs, creating the base. And then we've just got these lines here to do the horizontal lines now, or not horizontal, sorry, diagonal lines. You can do this in a trimmer by carefully placing the guide ruler over the score line, or you can take it to a scoreboard and do it that way. Since I've got my trimmer out, I'm going to do it this way. Now, because this rule lifts up and down, I can just place the scoring blade where I need it and no further. So it's quite handy for doing diagonal lines, because this one in particular stops in the middle of a panel and doesn't go off the edge of the cardstock. And sometimes it's a little bit harder to do score lines like that because we can't always see where our scoring blade starts and stops. There we go. So if you turn over your panel, you should be able to see. I don't think you can see on this very easily through the camera, but I can see I've got all my lines in there nice and strong. So I can now pop my trimmer away and remove my template. What I'm going to do first of all is fold this template in half. Let's take a bone folder and just strengthen that score line there, that fold, like so. Now I'm going to put my template, now it's folded in half, into an embossing folder. Okay, and I'm going to make sure the embossing folder only reaches to the edge of the panels, not the tabs at all. So just like so, just making sure that's correct. So just like that. If you've got a smaller die cutting machine, so one that's 6 inches across, you might have to do those side tabs. Not an issue, it's not going to really affect the way that it works, it's just neater if you have nice smooth lines there. But run this through your embossing machine in whichever sandwich combination your machine asks for. Just bear in mind there that you are embossing through 2 layers of thick cardstock, so it might feel a little bit harder than usual. And there we have our embossed bag as such. You can see that beautiful emboss. Now the embossing folder that I've used here is the textures one from the Floral Folk Art collection. So it's the, I think it's the geometric design background one. So now we can do our folding. You should still have your score lines in there. So just gently score these, because of course you don't want to flatten your embossing too much. It should go nicely along the lines. I love embossing cardstock like this as well, because it does hide a multitude of sins. So if you've made any mistakes with your scoring or your cutting, it will hide it all. There we go. So just folding these bottom tabs upwards and smoothing those out on the flat side, the smooth side. There's my tab that in my machine I needed to emboss that. Like I say, it doesn't matter whether you have to emboss it or not. Now the only thing with embossing this is sometimes you can lose these triangle score lines a little bit. So yes, I've lost them a little bit, but I'm not too, they're still there. I can still see them just about. And what I tend to do is just start to pinch them in. So just start to bend your cardstock. Now we're not going to completely fold the cardstock at the moment, because that's just going to end up creasing it too much. But I'm just going to give a little bit of a wiggle on those 2 lines, those 2 score lines we've created, just to start them off. And then when we fold the card, they'll naturally, hopefully naturally fall into place. There we go. Right, so now we need to fold this together and glue it. So if you lay it down in front of you, the 2 side pieces should fold together and meet beautifully in the middle, and you can apply glue now to this tab along here. So the glue I'm using is a wet glue, but you can use red liner tape, double-sided tape if you want. You could even use hot glue, but I find hot glue quite bulky for things like this. So just hold that for a moment, allowing that to grip. Make sure it's not sticking to the other side of your box as well. I think this geometric design is perfect if you are making a masculine card with the tie in there. There we go, so that's all glued. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to look at gluing these tabs. Now it's entirely up to you which way you want to glue those, which one's on top. It doesn't matter. They all fit in similarly. If you want to be able to flatten this box out another time to take it apart and not glue it, you're better off putting these down so that you've got them all interlinking. So that means tucking each corner one under the other like so, and that way that will hold itself, the base will hold itself still, but you won't be needing to add any glue at the moment. So I might leave that like that for now, but I'll probably end up gluing that later on. So now we need to work on these side pieces, and if you remember, we had the triangles and we had the line going up. If you haven't embossed, you should still see that. If you have embossed, the lines may be slightly hidden now, but they'll still be there. So what I want you to do is find your triangles, the side that your triangles are on, and the line all the way up to the top, and gently pinch the top of your bag where that line should be. Okay, so I've just done it to both of these. I've gently pinched and found that line. So I'm just going to now squeeze my bag at the top, and that all flattens. I'm going to keep squeezing all the way down, and that will eventually reach that triangle at the bottom, which it has just about. And what you'll find is you'll feel this pop like so, and that's where your bag has reached the triangle. Now, if you've scored this line, whichever side this appears on, that's where you want to fold against. I'm not going to fold this up because I'm not worried about it folding flat, but if you want to fold it flat, you can fold it up and flatten the bag completely. So now we can lift that back out and we'll have our shaped bag there. Absolutely lovely. Now you can create on the top here whatever sort of clasp you want to. I might get myself something like a little bulldog clip if this was for someone in the office maybe, but let's put the tie on first before we think about that. So the tie template is here, and we can take any coloured cardstock we want to. So I've got a blue here, that will work well. And I'm going to pop that. Do you know what, actually? Let's do this a bit differently. I've got a folded piece of blue cardstock, that's just given me an idea. Let's put that over the fold. So if I just take that part away, so the edge of the tie there, the top edge of the tie there, is sitting on the fold of this cardstock. So I'm actually going to cut through both layers here. So I'm not going to cut along the top, I'm going to cut down 1, 2, 3. Don't need to count the sides for you, you can see those sides, but just using your scissors is much easier for this than a trimmer would be. And because you've already got sticky on here from the template when we sprayed it, should be fine. So when I open this up, there we go. So what I'm thinking is I can glue this onto one side. So we're going to have this identical on the front and back. So glue it all down on one side of your bag. The other side will hook over. And I'm going to use something like, let's see, so I've got some little sort of hook and loop type fastenings here. I think these will work well. So you can pick these up just in your supermarket, or you could use, if you've got magnets, you could use those as well. I'm just going to pop one at the bottom of the tie. So I've pressed the hook and loop together so they've gripped the bottom of the tie there, and then fold that down onto the bag, and that's all holding in there absolutely beautifully. Now to finish off the look of a tie, I think what I might do is just cut myself a couple of triangles. I'm going to cut one to start with and see how these look. So I was thinking like so. So just, yeah, so a little triangle that sits under there. You can just about see that. But that will help finish that look of a shirt. So I'm going to pop that triangle over onto the other corner of my cardstock. This is just piece of scrap cardstock that came from after cutting my template. So I know it's all going to match. There we go, so 2 triangles, the longest edge I'm going to put up on the top edge of my bag. There we go. So if I lift up, you can see, hopefully, it's a bit bright there, but you can see we've got the triangles of the shirt there, and then that folds down. Oops, allow that to dry before you start fiddling with it like I did. There we go. So squish that. So that is just absolutely perfect for, I mean, you could make this the colours of somebody's school tie, their favourite work tie, if they are part of a club, if they've got sort of a their own ties there as well, you could do that. If this is a wedding day, you could maybe even sort of make a bit like, I can't think what it's called, like the waistcoat that comes over the tie here instead, so it could be more of a cravat. And these could be like wedding favour boxes for the gentleman on the table. You know, there's so many different ideas just from this one template, and it's actually a really good size box. If you look inside, we've got loads of room for sweeties and gifts. I'd definitely say sweeties or chocolates in there, and then that pops down. But like I say, a magnet, anything like that to hold that still would be perfect. Brilliant. Okay, so there is your Papercraft Essentials issue 225 gift bag template. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching this, giving you some ideas on how to use it and how to put it together. Don't forget, I haven't glued the base yet. I've just folded that into itself, but I will probably add a little tab of glue under each one once I know that I'm not going to be wanting to take that apart. But essentially, at the moment, I can lift these all up and flatten everything back out if I wanted to. So that's all out, that's all out. There we go. So you can do this in a number of ways actually. So if you did it this way, you could still have the tie showing. So you could flatten them for storage, particularly if you're making wedding favours, for example. You don't want to construct them right now, but you could get them constructed. So hopefully you've enjoyed that, and I'll see you again on Craftwell very soon for another template video.